Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing.
Dave Nassani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too, Thrive and Stay Alive as a Caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver, on sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com. Dave Nassani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too, Thrive and Stay Alive as a Caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver, on sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com.
Breathing from beautiful Los Angeles, the city of angels. I am Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com. And we're coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks on 26 global audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio, Blog Talk Radio, and the list goes on and on. And we are so proud that we were voted #1 caregiver podcasts on the top 50 of Player FM and #2 caregiver podcast on FeedSpot out of the top 60, as well as #2 podcast on caringvillage.com. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Marjory Wildcraft, founder of the Grow Network, author of The Grow System, an essential guide for modern self-sufficiency from growing food to making medicine. Caregivers need medicine, let me tell you. Published by Penguin Random House, featured by National Geographic as an expert, is off-grid expert in off-grid living, hosted Mother Earth News Online Homesteading Summit. So this is a very special lady. And before you say, well, what's that got to do with me? Just hold on. She's going to talk about very, very important things. And, caregivers have a habit of letting important things on their to-do list go to the bottom, and the urgent things take precedence over the important things. And that's just a recipe for disaster. So I encourage you to listen to this show and get some wisdom, okay? Before we continue, I want to thank my last week's guest, 4 Habits of Hope, caregiver with laughter, joy, and practicality. When our loved ones decline, how we can approach their care with hope, optimism, and love. And yes, even a little bit of humor. Ellen Rittberg is a great guest, and you can listen to that show on all of those platforms I mentioned above and our membership website, free membership website, caregiverdave.com. All right, enough of that. Marjory, welcome to the show. I always like to ask my guests, just who is Marjory and why was she placed on this earth?
Well, it all happened in approximately 2001 or 2003 or so. I was volunteering on a farm to table project where we were going to try and get locally grown organic vegetables into a little elementary school. And we all thought this is slam dunk. I mean, of course, right? And at the time, I had a very successful real estate investment business. And I had just given birth to my 2 kids, very involved in my community. And that meeting, the third meeting of all of us volunteers getting together to try and make this project happen, was when my life just completely and irrevocably changed. Because what we realized, and we're outside of Austin, Texas, was that there was not enough locally grown food in the county. There wasn't enough locally grown food in 3 counties to provide even part of the vegetables for an elementary school. And I will never forget that night. I started shaking because myself and all the other volunteers, and I don't know how the thing ended because everybody just left. There was nothing to say because we all knew there's only 4 days worth of food supply in the grocery stores. Your food travels to you an average of 1,400 miles to get to you. If anything ever happened, there's just no food. And I was shaking all night long. And then for the next years, panic attacks, waking up with cold sweats, completely overwhelmed.
Just worrying about the food supply, huh?
Yes. And I ended up closing up my business. I ended up losing friendships. And you know, it was just a really, really, really dark and terrible period of my life. And it had so much, very much similar to what a caregiver is doing. And you have so much coming on you, so much stress. And I said, well, I'm going to learn how to grow food and be proactive. And it was something that my kids can end up doing out in the garden with me, with the chickens and the rabbits and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah, you don't have to worry about the groceries going up in price, which they are, inflation and all that stuff. And you know, caregivers are usually short of money, and so that's a great way to save money. They usually don't eat right, don't sleep right, so having a good source of organic vegetables would be beneficial for their health. It's just a win-win for them. I hope they're listening.
Yeah, or even, you know, even simpler than a garden. Most people always think about a garden, but really a small flock of backyard hens. I mean, really, you can build a little coop, have them in a little area that's like the size of a parking spot. You know, get 6 hens, they'll be producing. You know, on average, a good laying hen will lay about 250 eggs a year. So 6 of them, you're going to be getting 1,500 eggs a year. That's
Do they need a rooster? Do they need a rooster with that?
No, you don't. That's a total myth. You don't need a rooster. And in fact, you don't want one because they're noisy and you're going to piss off everybody. But there's also a thing called therapy chickens. There a lot of chickens make
like a really
pet? Yes.
Really?
They're like pets with benefits because they lay eggs. And there are a lot of people that use chickens. There's some examples of some autistic children that were, you know, just really in bad shape, and they befriended a chicken, and whenever they held the chicken, they would calm down and be peaceful.
Really?
So,
and a chicken will let you hold them?
Oh yeah,
you can totally.
Yeah, you can totally tame them down just like almost any other creature. You know, there's little treats go with everybody, you know.
So you're a caregiver also, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, tell us your caregiver story. Who were you caring for? What was the problem?
My mom, you know, like everybody, up in her 90s. And I honestly did not take the brunt of it. My sister did. But we did, you know, we went through the whole. Yeah, we went through the whole deterioration to where.
Dementia?
Yeah, she, you know, it was, her memory went back and back and back until, you know, like she couldn't recognize my husband anymore, and she didn't know my kids, and then she really only knew us, her children, at the end. And we could talk to her about people maybe from back 50 years ago in her life, but you know, you see that, right? And then you see the physical, I mean, we went through the whole thing, but the thing that she loved the most was for us to take her out in the wheelchair and just sit outside in the yard. And you know, that's when we would be working in the yard with
She saw what you guys were doing in the garden, and it was an interest to her.
It was, and she was so peaceful and calm out there, and fresh air,
Wow.
and
Another
the
benefit.
birds. Yeah, so it
Did she ever do that in her life? I mean,
not at all, not at all.
it was
She
a
grew
new
up in,
experience for her.
yeah, she grew up and lived in New York City almost her entire life. So actually being in a, we were in South Florida in a backyard with a lot of trees and birds, and it was so soothing for her.
Yeah.
But really, you have to get good nutrition and the healing process. So I was completely whacked out, stressed out, crazy. The thing is it's really a healing process. It heals you on several levels. The first level, I had severe allergies. I mean, like for all of February, I was like completely not breathing out of my nose, and then the sinus infections and all the add-on stuff that happens. And that's gone. That is just gone.
Really?
And I used to be very, very cold sensitive. That's just gone. When you get a lot of deep nutrition on the physical layer, you will heal. On the mental and
Maybe a lot of
emotional
food
level,
allergies people don't know about.
right?
Wow.
But on the emotional level, so right now we are in the middle of this gigantic global change. And what is happening is we're having inflation, and hyperinflation is just around the corner.
Yep.
You've seen the empty shelves. You've had the experience when you
Especially the
went to go
toilet
buy,
paper, yeah.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm going to bring up. Yeah, the toilet. You've seen it, that when something disappears, it's gone, and you can't buy it. And that's
that's stressful, because now you're maybe worrying about tomorrow. Oh my gosh, when will I ever see toilet paper again? The Bible says, "Do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself," and all that. But that's what stress is, And you're an attorney also? What kind of attorney?
No, I mean, my first degree is in engineering, actually. Yeah. So I know that the level of mental health on the planet has skyrocketed because people fundamentally in their guts know there's a lot of things that are breaking right now. And I know caregivers, like, they're already handling a lot, and then having to deal with the whole global thing, even whether they watch the news or not, it's happening, and we know it at our gut level. The really great saving grace in this is that you can source directly from the earth and produce your own food and your own medicines.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly healing, as I said, on the physical level, but then also on the emotional level, because when you know that you can produce for yourself, you're not as attached to that grocery store being open all the time, right?
That's true. And what if people are like impatient? I mean, what if they think, "Oh my gosh, I don't have time to wait for my radishes or my tomatoes to grow. It must take like 6 months." Are there things that grow really fast?
Well, that's why I really recommend people get a flock of chickens first, and I would recommend 6 hens.
For the egg.
Yeah, for the eggs, because you can, get that little chicken coop built and buy 6 laying hens off of Craigslist that are already laying, get some feed, and you'll be producing like right away. There'll be eggs coming out right away.
How long does it take, sprouts and radishes and greens, and turnips, and lettuce, and all that stuff? How long does it take before, from you plant it in the ground to where you can eat it?
Well, actually, sprouts and greens that you do inside the house, you don't even do them in the ground. You can have those going in like 5 or 6 days. So those are really fast.
For
radishes
and stuff?
Yeah, and radishes will produce in about a month. You'll be producing radishes. And by the way, if you take a radish and you parboil it, it'll take the heat out of it. So it's not like that, because most people, you don't really want to raw radish. But if you parboil it, then it's not hot, and it just kind of becomes like
the spiciness of it.
Yeah, the spiciness. Most other crops are going to be, like squash is going to be 2.5 months. Potatoes will be 3 or 4 months. Tomatoes are going to be 3 months. So those can be producing pretty quickly. But I really recommend the chickens first, because you can make that happen really, really fast. The third part of this, so I talked about the physical level that's so healing and the emotional level that's so healing. The third part is the spiritual level, and this is a real surprise. I had no understanding of how important a magnitude this is, but if you think about it, when you're working with producing your own food, you are working directly with the forces of creation.
Yeah.
and amazing, magical. I can't tell you
Yeah.
just the incredible number of things
You're like
that
part of the process.
you
Nature.
are.
You become
Yeah,
nature.
yeah. So it's just such a great process, and you can get like my mom, she wasn't able to do anything, but she loved being out there while we were doing it, right? So it was
Did you give her little jobs to do? Like, was she able to help in any
she,
way?
she was not able to help in any way. She really
But
wasn't. She
some of
was.
these loved ones, maybe they used to grow their own vegetables. Maybe they lived on a farm, and it would be
Mhm.
great therapy for someone with dementia. Get back, on their hands and knees and get their hands in the dirt, and that would be very therapeutic, I think.
That would be, and you can even create like a raised bed. I recommend people make a raised bed that's like two
Yeah,
cinder blocks high, and you can sit
that's a
on
good
the edge
idea.
of it. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There is a lot of scientific research that putting your hands in the dirt like helps on so many levels. There's all kinds of ways they don't totally understand why, but
Uh,
it calms you down. It improves your digestion. There's a lot of really bizarre, like your fingernails grow better. It's crazy, like getting your hands
wow.
in the dirt. Yeah, yeah.
After you
So
clean the dirt out from under them, I guess.
yeah, right. You're right.
I'd
Yeah.
love to know more about the Grow Network, how it got started, but more how you offer free or very low cost food to help people get started growing their food. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, we really are a purpose and mission driven organization, and the commercial food supply is just so horribly toxic. And the solution is right there in your backyard, right? And so our catalyzing statement is homegrown food on every table, and we're stopping the destruction of the earth via homegrown food. And so we have a lot of free resources. And what I really recommend people start is at www.growhalf.com, where we show you how to grow half of your own food in a very small backyard size space, and you can do it in less than an hour a day. And I promise you,
It's a great hobby too.
it's a
Very
great
therapeutic.
hobby. It's so I also do interviews with CEOs, and these are people that are running divisions with 2,000, 3,000 people, entrepreneurs with 25, $50 million budgets and high pressure, high stakes. Dave Asprey, the founder of Bulletproof Coffee. I mean, just really big people that are high stress. They grow their own food, and of course they can afford anything they want, right? I'm like, the money is.
I met Ashton Kutcher. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a shark, and he was on that show 2.5 Men, and he's a famous movie star and a millionaire, and he was at a charity event, and I interviewed him, and he's actually an good old boy who had a farm, back in Nebraska or somewhere in the Midwest, and now he lives in Beverly Hills, on this mountain, and he's growing a garden in his backyard, and he's doing all this stuff, and he's like, gosh, if he does it, why can't we all do it?
I've done dozens of these interviews with these people that are like high power, high intensity CEOs. And I ask them what is the biggest benefit? Because, other than the flavor and the nutrition and all that, every single one of them says, I do it for the stress relief. I can still be productive because these people are incredibly driven and competitive. I'm still being productive because they're producing food, but it's in such a way that it's really nurturing to my soul, basically. So that like electronics and water and soil don't mix, so they don't have their phone out there. And I would say on average, most of them are doing this for 30 to 45 minutes a day. And they all say that's their time to decompress. It's their most cherished time during the day. They love it because they're still being productive, but it's in a totally different way than most of their normal life demands, and it's very healing.
Ashton told me he does it because it just brings him back to his roots of where he was. He doesn't want to get to be one of these big shot millionaire movie stars. He wants to stay genuine, to stay humble, and nothing makes you more humble than getting your hands dirty in the ground, does it?
That's true. It does reconnect you
All
back
right,
to
phone number or how you want us to get a hold of you to get us started on our free kit or low-cost kit.
a free. Go to growhalf.com, and I've got a free video for you and a bunch of resources.
Growhalf,
And
that's
Yep.
growhalf.com.
growhalf.com. Yeah, you got it.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been a blessing to our caregivers. And I really encourage you all to do what this lady is telling you to do, because it's great therapy. It's going to save you money. It's going to make you healthy. It's going to help your loved one be more beneficial in their therapy, especially if they have dementia. And even if they don't have dementia, it's a new hobby to do, because, one of the big criticisms of caregivers, what do I do? I'm home all alone, babysitting my loved one or my mother or my aunt or whatever. Well, get out in the garden and kill two birds with one stone. So thanks again for being on the show, Marjory. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you, Dave.
we'll see you again. Bye-bye.
All right.
Dave Nassani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too, Thrive and Stay Alive as a Caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver, on sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again.